Let's talk Supreme Court. 3 huge cases. I guess we really should start with the biggest blockbuster of all of them, which was the Birthright citizenship case today. And I think there are 2 ways to look at that. You could say this was chalk. This was the Supreme Court, by a relatively strong majority, ruled to uphold settled law, which has been settled for 128 years, and the plain English, strict constructionist reading of the 14th Amendment that was so obvious that even a 3rd grader should have been able to affirm it. The other way of thinking about this is, yeah, but 3 of these right-wing justices did not do that. Do you find today's ruling hopeful or ominous?
I think it's worth considering the fact that Kavanaugh actually cast sort of a split vote. He argued that birthright citizenship is a violation of federal law. He dissented, however, from the idea that it's unconstitutional. So when seen through the lens of the 14th Amendment and constitutionality, it was only a 1-vote margin. It was 5-4. So that is, I think, hugely ominous, but I also think that the outcome is certainly what matters right now. But in theory, it certainly raises the stakes for 2028 in terms of, or possibly depending on whether a member of the Supreme Court dies or retires before 2028, those numbers could flip if a Republican is able to install yet another member of the Supreme Court who's more compliant than some of Trump's have proven to be, and John Roberts has proven to be. So in theory, we're just one Supreme Court justice away, depending on which one it is, from the Supreme Court reversing today's ruling on birthright citizenship.
And let's not forget that, as you wrote, and I'm just going to read your own headline back to you on the fucking news, as you wrote 3 days ago. Here's your headline: The GOP's mass deportation of humans, sanity, and U.S. economy. Subhead: Supreme Court just cleared the way for Stephen Miller to die of a catastrophic self-induced orgasm. Jonathan, what did you mean by that?
We're talking about potentially, I think it's 1.3 million people who are currently here under temporary protected status, which is what the ruling last week was all about, and said that Trump had the executive authority to end it, regardless of the fact that the administration didn't go through the proper process for determining whether TPS should still apply, which it is supposed to apply when the places they're going home to are dangerous and terrible, which the government says they are. So what it did was it gave Stephen Miller a green light to deport the million people they've been promising since 2024, the 2024 presidential campaign. So, and what I meant by the headline, the non-horrific imagery headline, was we've already seen officials in Springfield, Ohio. We've seen Governor Mike DeWine, Republican of Ohio, basically say, please don't use this power that you have been given. We're talking about across the country. We're talking about industries and professions where a lot of these TPS people, human beings, have found work: healthcare, food, factories. These are foundational pillars of the American healthcare system. We're talking nursing homes. We're talking food packaging, delivery. We're talking manufacturing, right? There's this clip that went viral from this guy in Springfield, Ohio, talking about how his Haitian immigrants, he was terrified of losing them because they were better and more reliable and more consistent and more responsible in terms of showing up and doing the job than his previous workers had been. And look, you can argue that this opens up questions of exploiting immigrant workers, suppressing low wages, all of that. Absolutely. But those are bigger systemic things. The immediate impact is going to be deleterious to the economy, not just in Springfield, not just in Ohio, but around the country. And that's going to affect people's lives. It's going to affect their lives if they live in a town where businesses can't stay open because they can't hire the people they need. It's going to affect people's lives if the nursing home doesn't have a bed available for their parent because they lost the workers and can't find replacements. So yeah, this is another one of these situations where the Trump administration has won the power to do something that in Miller's case, he seems to have lusted after for perhaps his entire life, but that are going to have at various incremental stages, very clearly identifiable and predictable negative effects on the US economy and the quality of life for millions of people who get to stay here and have to deal with the consequences of losing these people.